Hello, everybody, and welcome to a podcast of Biblical Proportions. Episode 2, The Creation Story, Part 2, Let There Be Light. Hi, Omri.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Okay.
So, in our first episode, we start in the beginning, as the text says, and we broke down the creation story's main character, God, or gods, an abstract proto-monotheistic deity that rearranges the world with the power of his magical speech. In this episode, we want to go over how that world was built. So let's recap. God, or gods, or Elohim, made the world in 6 days. First, he turned on the light to separate the day from the night. He then created the sky and the earth, the seas, the vegetations, and the animals. And on the 6th day, he created humans, a male and a female. On the 7th day, the Sabbath, Shabbat, he rested. So, Omri, one of the first things that pops to my mind when I'm reading this story is how this creation story is very deliberate. There's a master plan. God, he doesn't wing it. And it was told aloud for generations and centuries before it was put into writing. So, they had time to have focus groups before publishing to see if it's repetitive enough, but not too repetitive.
No, I don't think they did focus groups back then. I think that if you didn't get stoned, it was a good enough sign that it went well.
I think the story is perfect and might be the best story of the whole damn book.
I imagine it like the opening sequence or some of the sequences later of Space Odyssey 2001.
By Stanley Kubrick.
It's like it's an ancient story that doesn't follow the norms of the genre.
Of the creation story.
Of the creation story.
Yes.
And to me, it reminds me of Space Odyssey 2001 because the opening sequence is monkeys. It's something very strange and alienated apes. It's very difficult to really project your own motivations and fears. You have no one to identify with.
You can't tell them apart.
You can't tell them apart even. And
it's very long.
It's amazing to me. The moral of the story or the conflict in this story is more in the subtext and in the feeling that it makes you feel.
Yes.
The way that this sequence makes you feel with the music, with the anxiety, with the raw emotions. And I think this is the drama in this story.
In the creation story. So how impactful was this particular story written 3,000 years ago, approximately where we're sitting now, along the coast of modern Israel? It boggles the mind because the 7-day week, this is where it originates, this text. Everybody in the world lives in a 7-day week. But we are the only ones who are, truly conserve the actual story because we rest on the seventh day and we start the work week on Sunday. This is a Sunday. We're now recording on a Sunday. This is a regular work day.
We call Sunday first day.
The first day.
It literally means first day.
Yes, Yom Rishon. And this is the story. First day, the second day, the third day. You guys have the day of the sun, the day of the moon, the day of a twig. She's a Nordish, tweed or something, Nordish deity. You have Odin's day, you have Thor's day. So this is not according to the story. You guys strayed away.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with day 1. God brought the light. It was dark and scary before he turned on the light. It actually says light 5 times at the beginning. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, and it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. So it's really pushing that point home. Light. You have light. That's life. This is God. He gave you the light.
In Hebrew, it sounds to me more like a market sale. Like this potato is $2, $2, potato, $2, potato. The language here is more colloquial to me. And I think it will be a reoccurring theme in this podcast to play down the language.
No, to disagree on it because for us, this language also, Vayar Elohim et haor ki tov. This is not something that someone will say in the market today with modern Hebrew. This is also a bit Shakespearean for us.
But
ויבדל אלוהים בין האור ובין החושך, separating, this is, for us it is a high language.
Yeah, for us it's a high language, but it's misleading that it's a high language. It's some kind of an illusion, because we have modern words, so ancient words became more elitist.
Right, because only the elite knew that.
Exactly. So when they said those high words, like Vayera Elohim instead of God saw, the word in Hebrew here is Vayar instead of Ra'a, which is more colloquial, more modern. So the illusion here is that we imagine some kind of a highly educated scholar, which they probably were, but with their limited scholarly knowledge of back then, that has some kind of a written tradition, and he chooses a higher word to describe what he wants to say. And I don't think that. I think the vocabulary pool of that era was pretty much thin. There weren't many words, first most.
But they had the best words.
But not so many. That's why they were the best. And there weren't any written traditions. Now, every writer writes after at least 300 or maybe 500 years of written tradition.
Right. In his or her language.
In his or her language. If you're English speaking, probably Shakespeare. But the novels that...
This is very important what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because they were basically the pioneers of the written tradition.
Exactly.
In that specific area. So here in this creation story, this is the first creation story, there's another creation story. Here in this creation story, God, He's the one who is naming all the things. He's saying the thing that holds the water above, the firmament, Rakia. He called the light day, the darkness, night. In the second story, we're going to see it's going to be like a playground, like Adam, the first man, he's the one who's naming things. So here, he's the only active character.
It's like a major difference, which almost makes you feel suspicious that those are completely different stories.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Different times and written by different people.
Yes, trying to say and just having a different God. It's just not the same God.
It's not the same God. Here it's a different word, plural again, with a master plan that he creates something and then he sees that it's good. I think the good here is not good as we imagine it, as benevolent, awe-inspiring.
Positive.
It works. It's good because it works. Whatever God decided, it has logic. It's like some kind of a BuzzFeed list of 10 unanswered questions you always had and you were afraid to ask. Why are the stars there? Why there's a difference between farm animals and regular animals?
Why do we control the animals?
Exactly. Why the skies and the seas are the same color? So the good here is God did something, it works.
So you made a compelling case with the logic theme, but since we know the character of God, we read ahead. Afterwards, now it's clearly two separate gods, but later they become one. That God is pretty full of himself and he likes to be told good things about him. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Bless you, Lord/Yahweh, God, our God, the King of the world. He likes that kind of stuff. Maybe it's like,
I don't know a God.
This was good, he's proud of himself. And at the end...
I don't know a God that doesn't like it.
And at the very end, he doesn't say... When he creates the humans, he says, it was very good.
Yeah.
So now he's like, oh, I'm really happy with that. He might be happy with himself.
And we can see some kind of an intuitive hierarchy of beings in the cultivation of this creation by creating the humans. Because the first thing that are being created are inanimate objects like skies, sea, whatever.
Trees. Then the trees.
Then the trees, which are like inanimate objects, but more complicated.
They're alive also.
Yeah.
They grow, they die.
Yeah, they move. They move in the wind. And then there's like the insects and the vermin, which are the vermin, which are like animated objects, but very automated and very predictable and tiny, and when you squash them you see no brain and the blood is different. And then comes the regular animals, and then the farm animals, which is quite telling that for this agricultural society, farm animals were a different category than regular animals.
Of course, they know these animals personally.
But the fact that they mentioned here specifically, it's very, very telling.
Yes.
And of course, humans are the culmination of this creation, as we said. They are the most complicated and unpredictable.
But on that, so only now when I reread this story, I noticed that the farm animals are made on the sixth day, on the same day that the humans are made. This is how the story is told. After it creates all the wild animals, it said, and the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And then he brings forth living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping things, whatever, and then the humans. So it's actually even more telling that they're on the same level, the same day. Okay, not exactly the same level because humans are made last, but on the same day.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like together. This is very interesting. And God gives dominion to everything that grows and to everything that moveth and lives. He gives them, like the word in Hebrew, redu, lirdot. This is like to be a tyrant on these animals. This is your dominion. But before that, the basis of the world, the lights, this is not something that this is something that rules over humans. When he created the big lights and the smaller lights for the day and for the night, this is very scientific. They govern the day and govern the night. So in this hierarchy, they are above us, humans.
I don't think necessarily they are domineering over humans as they are domineering over time.
Okay.
It's like they are the colonial governors of God. They control the aspect of time, and the aspect of time here is very, very, very important because, again, with the logic theme and the order theme, it reminds the listener that the time was created to give order in your days.
Yes.
So you will know when to worship your God.
Yes, Moadim.
Exactly.
That's like the
The
time
word
to
in
worship, like a holiday.
A holiday.
Moadim lesimcha, happy holidays. Right. So these holidays, worshiping, this is part of the order that these governors are telling you. Okay, now this is what you're doing. And in that time, such a superstitious religious time, we have to get into these people's heads. Something that gives so much order to the world around you and to your day-to-day experience. This is very attractive.
Very attractive and soothing. And soothing. It's very attractive and relaxing.
Yes, also because it's like a mantra, like a hymn. And the first day it was good, it's
exactly
very repetitive. It's like, and this, okay, now I understand it. It's very simple, very, very simple in the good sense of the word. It's not simplistic.
And order gives the illusion of controlling your destiny.
Yes.
Covering your tracks in order that your future will be safe, because their future of those people who lived back then was full of real anxiety.
Yes.
Real anxiety to either be murdered by a different tribe or be hungry. The larger the control you have over your reality,
with your worship,
with the deal that you made with your deity, the safer and more relaxed you feel. So it's almost like a survival mechanism of agricultural societies, because way back, 50,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers had anxieties, but their anxieties were quote-unquote real.
Right, evolutionary.
To tackle savanna challenges. And here, after we became agricultural, the anxieties, because we were detached from the day-to-day manifestations of those anxieties, like a tiger comes, you need to flee. I feel it as a football fan, soccer fan.
Okay.
I consider myself very rational.
Yes.
And I think twice about things, and I reject superstitions.
But
when I face the extreme anxiety of watching my team play, I don't care. Give me anything will work. If in the last game we won by 4-0 and I wore some kind of an underwear, I will wear that underwear again because it will give me an edge, even if I don't believe it. I live in such an extreme anxiety in those 90 minutes that I don't care. So imagine people that live in extreme anxiety every waking hour.
And they believe in that thing anyway.
They have to believe in that thing.
Good.
So this story gives them a powerful message that there is order.
Cosmic order.
There
also.
there are answers. God is good not in the Christian sense that he cares, he is benevolent.
No.
He's good because he knows what works.
Let's go over some of the creations and how it's different in the translation. So it's very specific when God creates all kinds of animals. So it says, ויברא אלוהים את התנינים הגדולים. The big alligators. Tanin is the...
Crocodiles.
Crocodiles.
Alligators, they are only in Florida.
Okay, sorry, crocodiles. So we don't have crocodiles here, and it's probably not the meaning back then was probably not crocodiles.
Yeah.
But in the English version, it's great whales.
Yeah.
So these are people who live in whatever on a grassy hill with forests, and it's cold all the time, and there's big waters all around the North Sea and all that. This is not what they're saying here. Also, it's not great; it's just big.
Yeah.
Probably the big fish. Also, like Jonah, he wasn't eaten by a whale, but by a big fish. Just a big fish.
And it's interesting because there it's the Leviathan, which to an English-speaking listener or reader, Leviathan is a big mythical creature, monster.
Yes.
And in Hebrew, it means whale.
Leviathan. Yes.
And here, in the English translation, they say whales, and here we say crocodiles.
Okay, this is weird.
But there's some kind of a mythical, the waters, if we try to put ourselves in their shoes, in their limited technology and limited imagination, the sea, the inside of the sea can hold the biggest, most scariest monsters ever. So when they say here taninim, which are crocodiles, but they probably mean big fish, it's funny to me. It's important to mention that in your creation story, because it's something that is part of their collective imagination, that there are sea creatures.
Yes. On the sixth day, when he creates man, ויאמר אלוהים נעשה אדם בצלמנו כדמותנו. So this is non-monotheistic alert, non-monotheistic alert. So God created man in his own image.
That's fake news. In the Hebrew text, we tell you, it says created in our image.
Yes. So this is plural, and it goes to this plural God, Elohim, Elohim, it says deities. So this is something that was left in the editing that it brings a problem, because this is like an archaeological remnant, as you said in the previous episode, of a polytheistic society, which it was.
And we're lucky that they consider the words that they write as holy, because that's why they didn't change that. The editor was supposed to change that in our image to in my image.
And the seventh day is very interesting, because if you read the chapter, it ends on the sixth day.
It's not even on this episode.
What kind of story ends just before the end and then has the conclusion of the story, the last part of the story, attached to the second creation story? This is very weird editing.
It's very weird editing for us because we have the tradition, but for them it's very reasonable. They wanted to make an artificial connection between the two stories, not artificial.
Right, to give street cred to the second one.
Exactly, because if you tell them apart and it ends on the seventh day, then it's more obvious that there are two different stories. Right. But if you tell them and the first episode is the to be continued of the last episode.
Yeah, this is one continuum.
The first one was the opening of The Simpsons. We zoom into the clouds and then into their houses, and then the episode starts with more details and character arcs and different characters and a conflict and motivations.
Right.
And even when I remember me at a young age, when I heard the stories back to back, it didn't pop into my head that there are two different stories.
No, nobody.
I thought it was
nobody
the
notices.
continuation of the first story.
Because it's
more
like
detailed.
It's like a cognitive dissonance. It's like, no, just because it doesn't work
Yeah.
with what we're told that this story is. You can't have two creation stories in a monotheistic religion.
No.
All polytheistic religions have several creation stories.
So the message here is kind of a message to humans, to the humans who lived back then, that all of this order is made for you. You are part of this order, and you tyrannicize other beings. Doesn't say specifically that the world is your playground, but the sense is that there is some kind of a logical, reasonable father, because it's obvious that all of those deities are some kind of manifestations of fathers and mothers. The father here is reasonable. He had a plan. He's a very different father than the next episode, as we'll see.
Yes. So in the next episode, we'll talk about a father who tries stuff out, and then some stuff he says, okay, that didn't work, so let me change it. And he has a name. And this is a totally different creation story that tells us a lot about these people and the editing job that was done, because the people who made the final version of this text, the Bible, they are the ones that wrote the second story. The first story is by the rival kingdom of Israel, more to the north.
Was destroyed.
And later assimilated into the Judean tradition. So their story, they put their story second. We're gonna break down that story in 2 episodes. First, we'll talk about the nature of that creation. And on the second episode, we'll talk about the local nature of this creation story and what it tells us about their world around them. It's gonna be very cool. Stick around and follow us if you wanna catch those episodes, and tell your friends. Help us out. We're starting out and we wanna do this. We're gonna go for the long haul. So thank you, Omri.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all here next time. Bye.